Right now at 6, a man arrested in connection with a Jasper County murder faces charges in the Kansas City area.
And we've got dense fog across the region this morning. We're going to talk about that and some rain chances later today coming up.
Plus, Native American organizations come together in Oklahoma to help ensure their voices are heard on Election Day.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Elise Noe.
I'm Chris Warner. It's Tuesday, and it is also September the 24th, yes, because that's just how the calendar works. We don't pick it. That's just what it does. You know, that's the thing. The calendar has been pre-decided for eternity.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess so.
No matter what we do, the days are set forever. So
can't fight time.
No, we cannot fight time, and we can't fight the weather. I mean, you can certainly try.
Yeah.
You can attempt to roundhouse kick this fog. I don't think it's going to do you any good, but you are welcome to give it a shot.
Sure.
But we do have some dense fog out there we've got to deal with this morning, and we can show you that with our camera in downtown Pittsburgh. Now, it's eased up a wee bit. Visibilities are slightly better downtown, but not significantly so. Airport now is reporting about 0.8 of a mile of visibility, and that lines up about with what we're seeing here. Now, on the Missouri side, in Joplin, it is foggy, but it is not nearly as dense at this point, as you can see from our camera at 7th and Rangeline and from the MoDOT cameras around the metro area. You can see the fog in the distance, so visibilities aren't significantly reduced in Joplin, but that could change rapidly, and that's what we've been noting too. On the KDOT camera just south of Pittsburgh at Kansas Crossing, earlier at least, visibilities were considerably clear. It was foggy, but you could see a lot better, and just a few miles north in Pittsburgh, visibility significantly reduced. A lot of this is across Kansas, Iola, Fort Scott, Chanute, Independence, Parsons, all below a mile visibility. Iola's been at 0 visibility all morning long. You've got to slow down, use your low beams, not your high beams, take your time to get where you're going, because this is impacting a number of major roadways and highways across our area, really along and west of the I-49 corridor. And we have dense fog advisories. In Oklahoma, they're through 9. For everybody else, they're through 10 o'clock this morning out there. And so we got to contend with that. Then afternoon, we've got to contend with a boundary that's going to come through. It's going to shift our winds out of the north, and it's also going to bring some scattered showers, maybe a couple of thunderstorms out there. And those will proceed into the late evening hours and be wrapping up by about, say midnight, 1 a.m. out there. 62 in Joplin, that's what I'm talking about. That's that KDOT camera. Look at how clear it looks down here compared to Pittsburgh. Big difference. 60 in Pittsburgh. Temperatures this morning, excuse me, into the upper 50s and low 60s out there. And as kids get on the bus, we are looking at the foggy conditions. 58, mostly cloudy otherwise with a calm wind. When the bus brings them home, again, a few scattered showers, maybe a thunderstorm, and about 74. The west breeze at 5 to 10. Scattered thunderstorms for some of us through the day. Otherwise, mostly cloudy to straight up cloudy. A little warmer, mid 70s. We're going to warm up more tomorrow, and then we're watching a tropical system for more rain chances. Those details coming up in just a few more minutes. Elise?
Chris, thanks. Well, time might be running out for a Missouri death row inmate whose case has sparked some second thoughts. Now, yesterday, the Missouri Supreme Court refused to stop the execution of Marcellus Williams. In 2001, he was convicted of the 1998 stabbing death of former newspaper reporter Felicia Gale. Williams has always maintained his innocence, and prosecutors may be reconsidering his case. In a rare move, St. Louis's top prosecutor filed a motion to vacate the conviction in January. Currently, the only person who can stop the execution is Missouri Governor Parson. Well, he issued a statement yesterday saying he does not plan to do so, citing 15 hearings that allowed Williams' conviction to stand. Williams is scheduled to die by lethal injection tonight at 6 p.m. One of 2 brothers connected to the murder of a man in Jasper County, Missouri, is now formally charged with violent crimes in the Kansas City area. Authorities say the suspects are 2 illegal immigrants from Honduras, Jose Quintero Benitez and Aiden Amlan Quintero Benitez. Now, investigators believe they were headed to Oklahoma to buy meth, but got stranded in Joplin and were out of money. Authorities believe they then fatally shot 63-year-old Oklahoma resident Jesse Gilmore at the Road Ranger gas station on Joplin South Prigmore Avenue and stole his car. Investigators believe they disposed of the body in a ditch alongside Interstate 44. The two brothers were later arrested for separate crimes not related to the Jasper County murder in Kansas City and Independence, Missouri. Jose Benitez yesterday made his first court appearance in Jackson County, Missouri for shooting and attempted carjacking there. The charges include first-degree assault, vehicle hijacking, and armed criminal action. At last report, the victim in that case, a woman, was in critical condition. In a separate case, he's also accused of pistol whipping a woman in Kansas City, Missouri. The Jasper County Prosecutor's Office had already charges against Benitez, including first-degree murder, robbery, and abandonment of a corpse. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office expects additional charges against Jose Benitez as well. The investigation continues following a late Sunday afternoon SUV crash on Gum Road in Joplin. Troopers say a pickup left the roadway, taking out fence posts, then ramped a driveway where it overturned. People who came upon the crash say they could not find a driver. Troopers are investigating to who was driving the SUV. And to be the first to see breaking news, weather, and sports, you can download the KOAM News app. It's available free of charge in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Just search for the KOAM News app. Well, northeastern Oklahoma Native American organizations are collaborating to host Native voter registration events. They plan to go to other locations, including healthcare facilities and festivals, to help people get signed up. Yesterday, they were outside of the Intertribal Council in Miami, helping people register. They want to make it easier for people to check their voter registration status, especially because thousands of Oklahoma voters were recently purged from voter roll and may not be aware that they need to re-register. The organization wants to make it easier for Native Americans to use their voice and be represented.
Everybody should vote. You don't have a right to complain if you don't get out and vote. So, we want everybody to get registered, and we want them to participate. And because there's a lot of important things.
Their goal is to increase voter turnout, especially because Oklahoma has one of the lowest rates of voter turnout in the United States. One big issue this election season is immigration and border security. We talked to the Republican and Democratic candidates for U.S. Congressional District 2 of Kansas to get their thoughts.
The U.S. House of Representatives, more than a year ago, passed additional legislation to try to strengthen border security, and it's been languishing in the Senate. So I think we do the border first, period, end of story. Once that's done, so that we know who's coming and going and we have control over who's coming and going, then I do think we need to have a much more thoughtful conversation about what are the right immigration levels for a country that's built of immigrants in terms of visa, who gets to come, who gets to go.
Now, if you go back to my voting record, I stand out in the 110th Congress, like way out. I'm an outlier in the Democratic Party. I have the most conservative voting record when it came to immigration. And I begged my party and said, if we don't do something to fix the border, and by the way, the good people of Kansas do not want to hear one more thing about any kind of path to citizenship until we have gotten border security down.
Now, we talked with the candidates on a wide range of issues, and you can see those complete unedited interviews on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. And that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes, coming up on the KOAM Morning News. Boeing issues a new offer to striking union members with better terms than what they previously rejected. Plus, President Joe Biden is preparing to speak before the United Nations General Assembly today. And Chris Warner returns with another look at your Tuesday forecast. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back, but first, here's a live look from Commerce, Oklahoma. Topping Nation Watch this morning. The new COVID variant XEC is on the rise just ahead of the fall and winter when many respiratory viruses circulate. So get ready. The U.S. government is making more at-home COVID-19 tests available for free. Each household will be able to order a new round of 4 free at-home test kits. The new test kits will be available by the end of the month. Boeing has issued a new offer to 33,000 machinist union members who have been on strike for 11 days. The revised offer includes an immediate 12% raise and a 30% raise over the 4-year life of the contract. Now, before the strike began, union members rejected an offer of an immediate 11% raise and 25% over the life of the contract. Now, another sticking point is retirement benefits. Boeing is offering to increase 401k contribution rates, but union members want the company to bring back its pension. Workers gave that up after the last strike in 2008 when Boeing threatened to move production to non-union plants. Well, this morning, President Joe Biden is preparing to speak before the United Nations General Assembly today. This speech is likely to be his last major address on the global stage. This comes as tensions rise in the Middle East and Russia's war with Ukraine continues to drag on. Jared Hill is at the UN headquarters in New York with the latest.
This morning, heightened security in New York after President Joe Biden landed in the city Monday ahead of his final address before the UN General Assembly as Commander-in-Chief. The speech comes as Israel dropped a barrage of missiles on southern Lebanon Monday. Nearly 500 killed, including dozens of women and children, according to Lebanese officials. But Israel says each target was a location used for storing Hezbollah weapons. The U.S. designated terror group has escalated attacks on Israel in solidarity with Hamas since the October 7th attacks.
It placed rockets in your living rooms and missiles in your garage. Those rockets and missiles are aimed directly at our cities, directly at our citizens.
The Pentagon Monday announced plans to send a small number of additional U.S. troops to the Middle East, bolstering the nearly 40,000 already stationed in the region. The State Department also urging Americans in Lebanon to leave while commercial flights are still available.
My team is in constant contact with their counterparts, and we're working to de-escalate.
In his address, President Biden is expected to highlight the U.S.'s role in defending Ukraine, managing competition with China, and ongoing efforts to strike a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. But experts say the real work will happen out of the spotlight.
The meetings on the margins of the General Assembly between world leaders that we don't actually get to listen to or take part in is likely where we'll see the more substantive discussion.
But little hope much here will move the needle. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Now, President Biden has a number of those bilateral meetings scheduled, but nothing with Israel's prime minister as of now. Netanyahu's trip has been delayed because of the clashes with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Lebanon's prime minister canceled his trip to the UN, citing concerns about war breaking out. And that's a look at some of today's top national stories. Here's Chris with a look at your forecast.
Yeah, Skywatch Storm Tracker at this point is relatively clear. We do have a lot of dense fog out there across the area, and we also are watching a boundary off to our northwest that'll bring us some rain chances later today. A look at your forecast when we come back.
Well, a central Louisiana resident is taking to the skies for his 90th birthday. Colin Vaderos has more on what the former pilot plans to check off his bucket list.
I told the good Lord, you give me a 90th birthday, I'm just going to do something special.
Horace Austin is a former pilot who worked for the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Natural Resources Conservation Service.
I owned an aircraft and did quite a bit of flying for the agency and in the work I did. So I really enjoyed that very much.
But Austin was eager to find any thrill left from flying, and after 35 years without being in the cockpit, he wanted to do something special for his 90th birthday. And with the help of a co-pilot, Austin made it back to the skies.
Once you get the feel of it, and there is, the flying, definitely you acquire a certain balance or feel for the entire thing. And of course you are guided by your instruments and all of the things that go on to control the aircraft. However, it is a certain level of of balance and feel that you acquire. And so that really felt pretty good. And today's a beautiful day. It's just as smooth as silk up there.
Now back on the ground, Austin's message to folks is to never give up, keep pushing, and there's a purpose that we all have to serve.
The best part of it is to reinforce the confidence in myself that at my age I can still do stuff like this. And that is really the bottom line. I would just reach out to my old fellow senior citizens and tell them, don't ever let your bucket go dry. Keep a list in your bucket list. We have to have a purpose for life.
Some wise words there. Well, now here's Chris with a quick look at your forecast.
Yeah, we're still contending with dense fog around the region. Another look at your forecast is coming right up. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. 622 coming up on 623 on this foggy Tuesday morning. Now, visibility conditions, at least for now, have improved a bit across Pittsburgh. Earlier this morning, it thickened up pretty good. You couldn't see very well out there, but still significantly reduced visibilities from our camera downtown Pittsburgh. Still not dealing with overly dense fog in Joplin at this point, staying to the west, but still some patchy fog, and we can see it a little better from MoDOT cameras around the metro area off in the distance. So again, the fog isn't overly thick in the city. And then again, just south of Pittsburgh, the KDOT camera 69 Kansas Crossing, you can see it's clearly foggy, especially in this guy's headlights, but it's not as dense as it was in the city. And that's the other concern we're facing is rapidly changing visibility conditions as you're traveling this morning. So do slow down. Use your low beams, not your high beams, and remember, it's better to be a few minutes late than not get there at all. Densest fog is still right along and to the west of the I-49 corridor, so the western two-thirds of our area. Still zero visibility in Iola and practically at that, Chanute, Independence, Parsons, and Fort Scott. Reduced visibilities again across the majority of southeast Kansas into northeastern Oklahoma. This also includes a number of the major roadways and highways across our region as well. So if you're commuting this morning, please be careful. We do not want to have to cover these crashes or anything like that come tomorrow morning or later this evening, okay? Just drive safe. Dense fog advisories, Oklahoma, they run through 9. Everybody else, they're through 10 o'clock this morning, and we're expecting this fog to burn off between about 10 and 11. Then we're going to stay cloudy. And we got a boundary approaching from the northwest that's going to bring us some scattered shower, maybe a couple of thunderstorm chances out there as we head through the afternoon and into the late evening hours. And we may get a second round of isolated storms later this evening, depending on what develops up around Kansas City and Topeka. And that might clip some of our eastern counties, but I do think the majority of the rain chances are going to be done by about midnight, 1 a.m. Our Wednesday, mostly clear to partly cloudy skies. That will allow us to be a little bit warmer. And then I want to go into Thursday because if you take a look, you can see on the future track some clouds trying to rotate in on the eastern side of our area. There's a tropical system, tropical cyclone down in the Gulf expected to reach hurricane status, and it eventually could take a northwesterly track into our area by the end of this week into the weekend. That could bring us some heavy amounts of rain. We do need that rain, but that could also lead to flooding concerns, so something to keep an eye on. Quick look at temperature, 62 in Joplin, cloudy. Airport's reporting 6 miles of visibility. Around the region, temperatures off to the northwest are into the mid to upper 50s, and as you head south and east, we're in the low 60s and some mid 60s out there as well. As we get our morning started, again, that fog lasting through about 10, 11 o'clock this morning. Otherwise, mostly cloudy to just plain cloudy skies and into the mid 60s. And then as we head down the rest of the week, we're looking at highs today, mid 70s, upper 70s tomorrow and Thursday. And then between Thursday and Sunday, that's where we're watching. It's going to depend on the speed and exact track of this system in the Gulf, but it could move up our direction and bring us some much needed rain. But the concern is it could bring some very heavy rain, and that could lead to the potential for some flooding concerns out there as well. So something to keep an eye on. Cooler temperatures Friday, Saturday, low 70s, mid to upper 70s heading into Monday. Then we get another little boundary. No rain at this point expected with this, but it drops our temperatures 40s Monday night, upper 60s Tuesday, mid 70s on Wednesday, and a little bit warmer, maybe even a pinch above normal by next Thursday, going in the low to mid 80s. That is a check of your forecast. Now here's Elise with Health Watch.
All right, Chris, thanks. Well, babies born during the COVID-19 pandemic do not have a higher rate of autism. Researchers at Columbia University looked at nearly 2,000 children born between 2018 and 2021 and found no significant difference in the rate of positive screenings for autism. Now, the study also turned up no difference for children born to mothers who were infected with COVID-19 during pregnancy. And more than 40% of adults are obese, according to a new report from the CDC. The agency says the obesity rate has not changed significantly over the past decade, but the prevalence of severe obesity has risen from 7.7% to 9.7%. Obesity increases the risk of hypertension, type 2 diabetes, coronary, heart disease, stroke, and certain cancers. And nursing shortages can lead to more deaths. A study published in the British Journal of Surgery found the relative risk of mortality increases 9% each day that staffing levels are below average. The patients also face longer hospital stays and worse outcomes, as well as a rise in deep vein thrombosis, pneumonia, and pressure ulcers. And as a look at some of today's top health stories, we'll be right back. Right now at 6:30, OSHA announces it's reevaluating safety regulations for some area fire departments.
We've been dealing with dense fog across the area this morning. We'll have a look at that, plus some rain chances today coming up.
Plus, a familiar furry face visits some students at a Columbus, Kansas school for a howlin' good time.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30. I'm Elise Snowy.
And I'm Chris Warner. It's Tuesday, September the 24th, because you got to keep track of the days some way, somehow. And that's what we do, because I'll forget. I'm going to forget by the time I get home.
You remind me every morning.
Yeah, and then I'll forget by the time I get home. That's what I do. Allergy is a big problem still, though. Man, I'm telling you, I count myself lucky.
Yes,
I'm not a major allergy sufferer.
You should.
But boy, I feel for everybody, because you've got them. My wife's got them. It's been pretty nasty.
It has been, and I've never suffered, severe allergies like this before moving down here. So
well, we're happy to contribute any way that we can.
You.
Right?
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. And we also got fog to contend with this morning too. Thankfully, I don't think anybody can be allergic to fog, but it can be dangerous. Let's take a quick look outside from our camera downtown Pittsburgh. Now, if you've been with us through this morning, you'll remember that at one point visibilities were significantly reduced in downtown Pittsburgh. Now they've improved a little bit, but you can see still some dense fog out there. It's been all right in the city of Joplin through the morning. Our camera 7th and range line showing that. MoDOT cameras around the metro area also showing that. You can see in the distance there's some light fog, but it's not been overly significant at this point in Joplin. But essentially, the western 2/3 of our viewing areas where the densest fog has been. Iola's been at 0 visibility all morning long. Chanute, Independence, Fort Scott, Parsons at practically that same level. We've got significantly reduced visibilities across a broad portion of our area, impacting a number of major roadways and highways. So remember, use your low beams, not your high beams, fog lights if you've got them. Slow down. Give yourself time to get where you're going. Again, it's better to be a few minutes late than not be there at all. Of course, accordingly, we have dense fog advisories. Oklahoma through 9, everybody else through 10 o'clock this morning. And by 11, the last of this fog should be gone, just in time for a boundary to begin working into the area, bringing an opportunity for some scattered showers and maybe a thunderstorm or two. No severe weather is expected out of any of this, but nonetheless, a little more much-needed rain will be out there. If you don't see rain, it's just going to be straight up cloudy. 62 in Joplin, 60 in Pittsburgh right now. And around the region, it's a nice fall-like start. We've got mid-upper 50s out in southeast Kansas, parts of Oklahoma, and then you head a little further south and east. We're in the low to mid-60s across the southeastern portion of our area. So again, a relatively decent start to the day. Kids getting on the bus this morning, again, contending with that fog. Otherwise, mostly cloudy, upper 50s with a relatively calm wind. West breeze later today, 5 to 10, isolated to scattered storms, and about 75 24 when that bus brings them back home. Headed through the afternoon, highs today a little warmer, mid-70s, but still mostly cloudy to cloudy skies, and again, a few scattered storms for some of us heading through the evening hours. This is not our only rain chance this week. We've got some additional ones a little later. We'll talk about that and how long the fall-like temperatures last here in just a few more minutes. Elise?
All right, thanks, Chris. Well, OSHA says they are reevaluating proposed regulations that would impact fire departments since the agency announced.
We are having a difficult time now as things sit to be able to get volunteers in rural areas. If this goes through, it's going to make it almost impossible.
Now, in a statement, OSHA says it's considering excluding volunteer departments entirely. The agency is encouraging those impacted by the regulations to speak out at their public rulemaking hearing starting November 12th. Well,
we are having a difficult time now as things sit to be able to get volunteers in rural areas. If this goes through, it's going to make it almost impossible.
All right, we apologize for that. Well, students at Central School in Columbus, Kansas had a howling good time when a well-known visitor dropped by yesterday. Kansas City Chiefs mascot, Casey Wolf. Now, the familiar furry face stopped by the school to tell the kids what the life of a mascot is like and to encourage a love of reading. Staff and students showed the fan favorite a ton of excitement.
My favorite part of watching Casey Wolf today was seeing how excited the kids are, because the Chiefs are such a big part of so many families around here, and just so they can have joy and they'll remember this, and I hope that they'll remember that reading was a part of it, and that's something they'll always have.
Casey Wolf has been the official Chiefs mascot since 1989. Well, it's the time of year that haunted house attractions are hiring in preparation for spooky season. KOAM's Lonnie Walton visited one in Webb City and learned they're about more than just the screams.
We have people that get scared in the first room and they chicken out, so we have a lot of chicken exits. We have all different kinds of mazes with different characters. So anywhere you go, you never know where a character's lurking. So they're screaming all the way through till the very end.
Maddie Idris is the owner of Unleashed Hunt. However, it's not your typical haunted house. While the screams are plenty, so is the give back to the community.
We donate to various different organizations. The Humane Society is one we always give, we try to give a donation to. I'm actually partnering with the Webb City Theater Department. They're coming out and acting, and in return I'm going to give them a donation to their school program. And then various cancer organizations, Special Olympics, we're actually doing the polar plunge.
Idris and the haunted house actors make sure fun is endured by all.
Kids or someone who's scared, if they want to go through and see everything, we give them a neon light and we take them through with a flashlight, and none of my actors will scare them.
If you really want to get spooked, watch out.
We have an experience for everybody, but we also are really scary and will make people pee their pants or pass out. So yeah.
Reporting in Webb City, I'm Lonnie Walton, KOAM News.
Unleashed Haunt opens this weekend for anyone ready to get in the spooky season spirit. And that's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. Health insurance enrollment is just around the corner. We'll have some tips on how you can make sure you're picking the right one. And we have a foggy and cool start to the day. We'll have what to expect with Chris Warner in the Skywatch Weather Center. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back, but first, here's a live look from Commerce, Oklahoma. In Consumer Watch this morning, nearly 165 million people have an important item on their to-do list in the coming weeks, enrolling in their employment-sponsored health insurance. Health policy research organization KFF says more than 60% of people under age 65 last year got their coverage through their jobs, and enrollment time is just around the corner. Emily Schmidt has more on how to find your best health insurance fit.
No one size fits all, and the same goes for employer-provided health insurance. That makes open enrolling an especially personal challenge.
Often you're being asked, when you have a choice of plans, you're being asked to make a trade-off between premiums and cost sharing.
Of course, we can't predict what's going to happen in terms of our health, but we can kind of think about, how do we expect to use our coverage in the year ahead, and kind of choose according to what you think your expenses will be.
There's the alphabet soup of options, HMO versus PPO.
You tend to have more choice of provider in a PPO. That's the upside. The downside is if you have to go out of network, you'll probably end up paying more.
And FSA, which is often use it or lose it savings, versus the HSA, which requires a high deductible plan that potentially requires more spending up front. Then consider healthcare you used this year with care that might be brand new.
The typical worker spends something like 15 minutes a year picking their health plan. The best advice I could give is to spend more time than that to make sure you understand how the plan works, what it covers, what it doesn't.
Spend a little bit of time in figuring out how you would navigate your coverage when you need it, because often when you need it is not the best time to try to figure it out.
It's the health insurance twist on an apple a day keeping the doctor away. Work to pick the right plan now, so the right plan is in place to work for you. For Consumer Watch, I'm Emily Schmidt.
California's Attorney General announced a lawsuit against ExxonMobil. The suit alleges that Exxon engaged in a decades-long deception about whether the plastics it manufactured can be recycled. An Exxon spokesperson responded in part by saying, quote, "For decades, California officials have known their recycling system isn't effective. They failed to act, and now they seek to blame others." Well, next month, Kmart is said to be closing its last full-scale store in the mainland U.S. Employees with the company say Kmart will shutter its location at Bridgehampton Commons Mall on New York's Long Island. Only a small Kmart store in Miami will remain, as well as a few Kmart stores in Guam and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Almost 6 in 10 Americans say they would need to earn at least $100,000 a year to stop feeling anxious about their bills. That's according to a new report from Edelman Financial Engines. About half of that group put the amount even higher at $200,000 per year or more. And that's it for Consumer Watch. Here's Chris with another look at your forecast.
Yeah, we've got some patchy fog to contend with out there. We're going to take a quick look outside our camera downtown Pittsburgh. Fog visibility has improved a bit, but still we've got to watch out there. Our camera at 7th and Rangeline in Joplin. We've had some light fog in the city, but so far Joplin has been spared the denser fog, but that's not to say that it couldn't still thicken up, and there's still some dense fog around the city also, especially along and west of the I-49 corridor. Zero visibility in Iola and practically the same. Fort Scott, Parsons, and Independence. We have significantly reduced visibilities over a number of major highways and roadways in our area, so you need to slow down. Low beams, not your high beams. Give yourself time to get where you're going. Dense fog advisories, Oklahoma through 9 a.m. Everybody else, they'll continue through 10 o'clock this morning. Then, as we head into the afternoon, we got a boundary approaching from the northwest that'll bring us an opportunity for some scattered showers and maybe a couple of thunderstorms out there as well. But some good news, we just don't have the ingredients for any severe weather, which we do not need. Quick look at temperatures. 62 in Joplin, sitting at 60 in Pittsburgh, and we've got a mix of 50s and 60s out there. Off to the northwest, we've got mid to upper 50s, and as you head further south and east around the area, we've got temperatures hanging out in the low to mid 60s. So a very nice fall-like start to the day. Kids getting on the bus this morning, obviously, many of you some fog to contend with. 58. Mostly cloudy skies otherwise and a calm breeze. West winds later today, 5 to 10. Again, a few scattered showers and storms out there, and about 74 when that bus brings them back home. We're going to have another full look at your forecast in just a moment, as well as birthdays and anniversaries. But first, here's what's happening on CBS Mornings.
I'm Tony DeCopel. Coming up on CBS Mornings, actor Kristen Bell will be here in studio to talk about her new comedy series. Plus, Nate, as in Burleson, goes to Wisconsin for our latest edition of 3 Meals to see what voters in that state are most concerned about. That is coming up on CBS Mornings.
Time for some Tuesday birthdays in the 4 states, and we're going to start with Fisher Tedlock, celebrating birthday number 3. The pretty cool pair of shades there. Happy birthday, Fisher.
And over in Seneca, a happy 12th birthday to Aspen Wyrick. Says here, love mom, dad, Remy, Carson, Kennedy, Emerson, Nana, Papa, and Ava.
And in St. Paul, we've got Sawyer Bourne celebrating birthday number 13. A happy birthday to you, Sawyer.
And a happy 38th birthday to Ashley Ellison in Pittsburgh.
And in Lamar, Lou Winslow celebrating birthday number 91, says happy birthday from your children and grandchildren. A very happy birthday to you, Lou, and a very happy birthday to everyone on our list. This one's a little shorter today. Doesn't mean we don't like celebrating them. How can you celebrate with us? Well, Elise has the answer.
Yes, go ahead and submit your birthdays and anniversaries to birthdays at KOAMnewsnow.com. Be sure to include all those photos and messages, and to, of course, meet the deadline that you see there at the bottom of your screen.
And it is, of course, essential to meet that deadline so that you ensure your birthday airs at the correct time. All right, we got some weather to talk about. How do I know that? Well, that's all I do anymore. It's just the weather. And we've got some fog. We're going to start with this. Our camera downtown Pittsburgh. You can see still some patchy fog out there, and it's cleared up a bit. Visibilities have improved slightly in Pittsburgh, but still, you can see that the fog is still a little bit on the dense side out there. Our camera 7th and range line. So once you cross the state line into Missouri, you can see Joplin. We have some light fog out there, but it's not been anything significant, which you can see from MoDOT cameras around the city. Nothing super dense, some light fog here and there, but we've also seen rapidly changing visibilities. Earlier, we had Pittsburgh downtown camera. You almost couldn't see downtown, but then you travel to the KDOT camera south of Pittsburgh, and it was considerably clearer, similar to what we're seeing now. So in just a few miles, that visibility can drop rapidly and suddenly. So you need to slow down. Like we've said all morning, use your low beams, not your high beams. Fog lights, of course, if you have them, and just give yourself time to get where you're going. We've been telling you about the fog all morning. Hopefully you've listened. Maybe you're leaving early to get where you're going. If not, don't rush. It's better to be a few minutes late than not at all. All right, zero visibility still in Iola. That has been unchanged all morning, and near zero, Fort Scott, Parsons, and Independence. Significantly reduced visibilities in the western 2/3 of our area, so west of the I-49 corridor for the most part. It includes, as you can see, a number of major roadways and highways across southeast Kansas and into northeastern Oklahoma. So if you're commuting this morning, again, please slow down. It's not worth it to get where you're going in a hurry, to be in a serious crash, okay? We have dense fog advisories. In Oklahoma, they run through 9 o'clock this morning. For everyone else, they run until 10 a.m., and we're expecting that fog to burn off between about 10 and 11, and that'll be just in time for this. We have a boundary coming in from the northwest, and that's going to start to bring us a chance for some scattered showers, maybe a thunderstorm or two. Nothing severe expected, but at least some additional rain chances out there, which we desperately need across the region. And then later this evening, we'll have to see exactly how it pans out, but we're looking at the possibility of maybe some additional thunderstorm development somewhere around Kansas City to Topeka, and that could eventually shift into our eastern counties late this evening. But I do believe the majority of the rain is going to be wrapping up by about midnight, 1 a.m. at the latest, and we'll have gradually decreasing clouds overnight, and we'll be mostly clear to partly cloudy on our Wednesday, and that will allow us to warm up a bit more than what we're going to see today. And then as we head into our Thursday, the one thing I'm going to point out is what we're keeping an eye on. There's a lot of variables still in play here. We have to see exactly how this pans out, but the data has been relatively consistent for the last several days. If you watch on future tracks, these clouds rotating in on the eastern side of our area. There's a tropical cyclone down in the Gulf of Mexico. There's already some tropical storm watches in southwestern Florida. It's expected to become a hurricane and make landfall a little later this week. It could, and is somewhat at this point, is expected to take a northwesterly turn, which will be pushing it into our area later this week into the weekend. Now, depending on how close it gets will determine how much rain we get, but we're looking at the potential for some fairly heavy rainfall. And while that's great news for the drought, that much rain in a short amount of time could also lead to some flooding concerns. So a lot to watch as we head into the weekend. 62 in Joplin with those cloudy skies out there. Temperatures this morning, upper 50s in southeastern Kansas, parts of Oklahoma, and then low to mid 60s as you head a little further south and east. Going through the morning again, mostly cloudy, fog through about 10, 11 o'clock this morning. Mostly cloudy to just plain cloudy by late morning, mid 60s out there. Got another look at your forecast and the news you need to know right after this. And when we switch over to Fox 14 at 7 a.m. We're going to see how a shop in New York is helping migrant families feel more at home with no price tag.
Well, here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The investigation continues following a late Sunday afternoon SUV crash on Gum Road in Joplin. Now, troopers say a pickup left the roadway, taking out fence posts, then ramped a driveway where it overturned. People who came upon the crash say they could not find a driver. Now, troopers are investigating as to who was driving the SUV. Missouri prosecutors are reconsidering the case against Marcellus Williams. Williams was convicted in the 1998 stabbing death of Felicia Gale. Williams has always maintained his innocence, and yesterday the Missouri Supreme Court refused to stop the execution of Williams. Currently, the only person who can stop the execution is Missouri Governor Parson. OSHA says they are reevaluating proposed regulations that would impact fire departments. Since the proposal in February, the regulations have faced backlash from many different departments and organizations. Now, the agency is encouraging those impacted by the regulations to speak out at their public rulemaking hearing starting November 12th. And that's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
And as you head out the door, remember, dense fog out there, so do watch out, slow down. Low beams, not your high beams. You guys know the drill out there. After that, we'll have scattered showers and storms heading into the afternoon, mid-70s with mostly cloudy to just plain old cloudy skies. A few isolated showers and storms continuing through the late evening. They should ramp up about midnight, 1 a.m. and then gradually clearing skies overnight, falling back into the mid-50s. A little warmer tomorrow, partly cloudy, upper 70s. Watching that tropical system, depending on the exact timing when it will get here, but could start bringing some showers, maybe a couple of thunderstorms with some fairly heavy rainfall as we head into the weekend, so something we'll keep an eye on. Temperatures remaining relatively seasonable, save next Thursday could see the 80s again.
Alrighty. Thanks, Chris. Well, coming up today at noon, we're making baked custard rice pudding in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
And your morning news continues on KOAM with CBS Mornings. Everyone deserves a seat at the table. Next on CBS Mornings, 3 Meals series. Nate Burleson traveled to the key battleground state of Wisconsin to break bread with voters and hear what matters most to them in a state that could be crucial in the election.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. This morning, Jasmine Kyle from the SEK Humane Society joins us with an invitation to this year's Halloween bash.
Plus, Charlene Patton is in the studio with another healthy, nice recipe for us. However, that's going to wrap it up for us for now. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 5 a.m.
And we'll see you today at noon.